Hey guys, welcome to 744 Ocean for our latest edition of On the Beat. I'm Brett LoGiurato here with my fellow men's basketball beat writer, Andrew John. We are here to break down Syracuse's upcoming game tomorrow night versus Seton Hall in the Carrier Dome, 7 p.m. And the first thing we want to touch upon is, last time out, this is obviously a rematch from just more than 2 weeks ago, January 8th in Newark, New Jersey, in Seton Hall. And we want to start off talking about how, to put it bluntly, kind of how abysmal that performance from Syracuse was. Syracuse was number 4 in the nation at that time. They just didn't play well in any facet of the game, and that starts with their shooting performance, and especially from the line, it was abysmal. And one thing Andrew pointed out that I want to ask you about is Syracuse has the worst free throw percentage in the Big East currently, and we saw how that affected the game against Villanova. How Villanova made a lot more shots than Syracuse from the line, and how big of a factor do you see this playing in this game?
Well, I mean, I think it could play a factor anytime a team is shooting as poorly as they are. They're only at about 63%, and that's something that I think could really catch up to them towards the end of the season. In this particular game, just depending on how things go, it could also play a factor. But coming into the game, Syracuse, as long as they shoot the ball a little bit better than they did against Seton Hall a few weeks back, I think that the free throw shooting probably won't play as big of a factor. But as we saw against Villanova in a game that could have been really a lot more closely contested, those free throws did come into play, and it could easily come into play against a team like Seton Hall, who really has not had a lot of success against Syracuse in a while. But on pretty much any given night, a team in the Big East could really give Syracuse some trouble if they're not shooting well.
Yeah, well, the free throw shooting could come in a tight game against a team like Seton Hall, but throughout the game, the bigger problem last time was the shooting overall and the offense, and Brandon Trish kind of willed them to victory that time with his second half performance. He went off for 15 points, and he really was, as Jim Boeheim said, the only guy who was doing anything on offense that game, and the thing that saved Syracuse was his defense and the abysmal shooting performance from Seton Hall. They went 0 of 17 obviously in the first half and 3 of 26 in overall. But now they have Jeremy Hizzell back from a wrist injury, back from a shooting in December in Harlem. Andrew, what effect do you see him having on this game? And if it's another tight game, is he the guy that can put Seton Hall to an upset?
I think really he can. He's one of these guys who has really had a lot of success against Syracuse. If you look back at the previous 4 or 5 games that the two teams have played against each other, of course, with an exception of the game this season down in Newark, Hizzell has the long-range shooting ability to really bust the zone at Syracuse. He's only 15 three-pointers away from being the Big East all-time leader in three-pointers made. So I think that he definitely has the ability to change the game from a little bit more of an inside game. It seemed like Seton Hall would have had to have they would have had to turn it into an inside game because they couldn't shoot the three-pointers in the earlier matchup. I think that he really changed the dynamic of their offense, though.
And the last key we have this game is the performance down low, and Rick Jackson, after Villanova, saying pretty bluntly that I need some help down low, I need some help getting rebounds. And when you look at it, the past few games especially, he's been getting a large chunk of the Syracuse rebounds, almost 50% in that win against Seton Hall, almost 50% last time out against Villanova. And it's just a recurring problem, and in a physical league like the Big East, in a game like Seton Hall, and in going forward into the rest of the physical Big East, how does Syracuse correct this problem, and who has to step up and start getting rebounds, I guess?
I mean, it's a collective effort, obviously. One of the things that Jim Boeheim said, after the Pittsburgh game, was that the guards weren't helping out on the boards. They weren't really helping out defensively either. He said it was the worst performance defensively from the guards that they've had all season. And then of course Villanova came out and shot really well from long range, and I'm sure that his approach was very similar about the defense. I think the guards really have to chip in, but it really also starts with some of the other forwards and big men. James Sutherland is a guy who has been seeing extended minutes because of his shooting ability. He also has been improving, and he's a hustler, but he also isn't a great rebounder. And whenever he's in the game, he needs to be aggressive. And I think they really struggle when they have Rick Jackson in the middle, just on the boards. When they go with that lineup, they end up being very efficient offensively, and even defensively they're a little quicker, but they really do struggle on the board. So it's going to be a little bit of a collective effort all around.
Yeah, I agree. I think when Rick Jackson's in the center, he has to step up and get that driver to the lane, and that affects his rebounding. And Jim Boeheim said after Villanova that referring to James Sutherland specifically, he said that there's a difference between jumping and rebounding, and just because James Sutherland can jump doesn't mean he can rebound. And the last thing, speaking of kind of being in Jim Boeheim's doghouse, the last thing I want to touch on is Scoop Jardine. Obviously spending the final 6.5 minutes on the bench on Saturday, for a guy that came in to the season as along with Chris Joseph, is probably Syracuse's one of their two most important guys. And what does he have to do Tuesday night against Seton Hall to kind of reestablish himself and get himself on the right footing again?
I think Scoop Jardine is a guy who's extremely comfortable this year. He'll go out and he'll have a poor game like he had against Villanova, and early in the season he was held without any points, and he can bounce back from that fairly easily, I think. So he just needs to relax and get his other. He really thrives on getting his other teammates involved, and once he's able to do that, he can generate his own offense fairly easily. So I don't really think that's a big thing. I think he needs to just take it easy, get the other guys involved. One of the things I think that he can do is he can really rely on Chris Joseph. Chris Joseph has really stepped up. Other than the injury that he suffered, he's really been shooting well. And if he's able to feed him, and once Chris Joseph gets going and some of these other guys get going, then I think Scoop will be able to find his offense a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I saw at Saturday was that just both he and Waiters and even Trish just kind of being a little selfish almost, and not getting teammates involved as much as they could. And I think that's where they, like you said, that's where they thrive. And at times they just try to force too many things. But we'll get into our predictions now. Andrew, obviously 2-game losing streak for SU. Do you see them rebounding? What's your prediction?
I think it could be a close game. I think that Seton Hall will play them tight, even though that was a close game down in Newark. For a while there, I think that with the addition of Jeremy Hazel coming back, I think that this could be a close game. But I do see Syracuse bouncing back. I'm going to pick them 80-67.
Yeah, I'm going with you. I'm going to pick Syracuse 73-60, and I think Hazel will play a factor in this game, but I think in the end, I don't think Syracuse will play nearly as poor as they did the last time out. I think they'll be, definitely determined to get back on track after the last 2 games, and try to come out and dominate and show that they're a top-tier Big East team, despite not proving it against Pitt and Villanova. But in the end, I think they'll take care of business and win by double digits, 73-60. That's it for now. Be sure to check back Tuesday night. We'll have all your coverage from Seton Hall. We'll have live tweeting, text updates, and all that stuff. So be sure to check back at dailyorange.com and in the print edition Wednesday for a recap of Seton Hall. But for now, signing off from 744 Ostrom for Andrew, Brett. See you later, guys.